Meeting to order. Tonight, this isn't something we have to vote on, but it is something that everyone needs to know about. Um, Jackson County Fire Marshal Michael Forbes has issued a burn ban, and I'll just go ahead and read it off. It's an open burning prohibited November 6, 2023, whereas atmospheric conditions in Jackson County are very dry and pose an increased risk of wildfires with the potential to destroy life, real property, and natural resources. And whereas measures by Jackson County are necessary to prevent additional fires, and whereas pursuant to Section 307.1.1 of the North Carolina Fire Prevention Code, adopted and incorporated by reference into Jackson County Fire Prevention and Protection Ordinance, open burning shall be prohibited when atmospheric conditions or local circumstances make open burning fires hazardous. And whereas open burning means the burning of any type of combustible material directly into the open air, it includes any land clearing or recreational outdoor fires, including campfires, fireworks, prescribed burning, croplands, structures, or underbrush in forested areas, or outdoor fires of any size. And whereas on November 5th, 2023, the North Carolina Forest Service has issued a ban on all open burning and has canceled all burning permits in Jackson County. However, the ban does not apply to a fire within 100 feet of an occupied dwelling. And whereas Jackson County, through the county fire marshal, has the jurisdiction over open burning within 100 feet of an occupied dwelling. Now, therefore, the Jackson County Fire Marshal does hereby prohibit open burning within 100 feet of an occupied dwelling in order to provide for the safety and well being of citizens and to protect property and natural resources. And this ordinance shall become effective at 5 p.m. on November 6th, 2023, and remain in effect until formally terminated. I think this goes without saying, we're watching them burn all around, so let's all be good citizens and make sure we're watching that. Certainly, there's one I think in Caney Fork area, Tuckasegee, obviously out in Cherokee County they've got a big one, and Henderson County has a big one as well. So, first up on the agenda, first up tonight is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for approval? And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. None opposed.
Aye.
Next is the approval of our minutes from the work session on October 10th, the regular meeting on October 17th, and the reconvened meeting on October 24th. If everyone's had a chance to look over those and there's no amendments to be made, I'll take a motion for those three meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And a second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 None opposed. Moving on now to administrative reports. Couple of announcements. Obviously, Thanksgiving's coming up. I plan to attend the Fairview Schools Thanksgiving dinner, lunch. So, looking forward to that. And then, obviously, we've got the holidays, so everyone please be safe. Any other question reports?
No report tonight.
Over to County Manager Ron Adams.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll just continue the conversation where the open burning prohibited in Jackson County. I also passed out a copy of that order from Fire Marshal Forbes. Also just gave a copy of the state order. This comes from the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So normally what happens is the fire marshal will coincide his order along with the state. And so you can see this order does from the state include Burke, Cherokee, Clay, Cleveland, Gaston, Graham, Henderson, Jackson, Macon, McDowell, Rutherford, Swain, and Transylvania. I just want to reiterate what the chairman has stated. Please do not set fires. Do not do any type of even small fires next to your house, things of that nature. The East Fork fire has burned about 220 acres. Hopefully, they have it contained. It did jump the line here a couple of days ago. The excuse me. Emergency management coordinator, Mr. Dillard, was telling me that they had about 110 people working that fire. We had to bring in people from all over the region to work that fire. I don't think citizens quite understand the manpower and labor that it takes to actually try to contain these fires. Savannah Fire Department down there is having to make sure staying on constant standby to make sure no structures are in danger. So just please don't do any fires. The one in Tuckasegee was about 25 acres. And so just reiterating what was stated, please just follow the order and hopefully we can see some rain coming up here in the next couple of weeks and hopefully the wind stays down and allows um, for the emergency services folks to be safe and keep us safe. So. The other item, the report I did provide a copy to the board. We are currently out to bid for our domestic violence shelter for Center for Domestic Peace. As you can see, the bid will be due on December 11th. You'll see these advertised in local papers, but we also do plan rooms. I also do advertisements on historically underutilized business places so that we try to get as many bids as possible. As you can see, we do have a mandatory, be held, a pre-bid meeting will be held on November 20th. And so hopefully bids come in within budget. Kind of give this board the timeline. That is a Monday, December 11th. Work session is scheduled for December 12th. We will come before this board on December 12th and give you a preliminary just summary of what the bids are. And then hopefully we'll be in a position to come back to you the next meeting, which I believe is the 19th, for your last meeting of the calendar year to make recommendations for this board to move forward. Kind of give everybody understand how this works is currently right now the construction contract is in your county attorney's hands. While we're on the bid, we'll tweak it, we'll do whatever necessary to make it all the legal review to take place, and we will make that part of the bid package so that once the bids come in, then you're not having to go through and do that type of review. It does allow this board to move quicker. And so potentially you could be in a position if things come in on budget to award the bid contingent upon following through with execution of the contract. What happens is even if you voted on like the 19th, you don't sign contracts at that point. What that does is that takes it back to the architect's hands and takes it back to the contractor's hands, and ultimately all bid bonds, bid bond with the bid, performance bonds, insurances, all that has to be put into place before the actual signatures take place. So normally what happens is it goes back to the architects and contractors' hands. They get everything in place, everything signed, and then everything from their side executed gets sent back to the county. And there should just be a real quick review at that point because you don't have to review all the documentation. Just review to make sure insurances and performance bonds are in place. It does allow the county to exercise and go through and execute the contract. So again, fingers crossed, hopefully everything comes in on budget and that project can start rolling next year. If it does go with that timeline, more than likely you would execute the contract in January. It usually takes a month or so for contractors to get mobilized. So you're probably talking about February or March before they're actually on site itself. The contract itself is about a 300-day contract. So let's just go ahead and say a year. So you generally have about a year before the contract will be completed. So hopefully about a year from February or March, the county will have an operating domestic violence shelter. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. We do have people signed up for public comment.
Mr. Darnell, how are you tonight?
Good, thank you. Thank you, sir. Moving along accordingly. Uh, Sometimes beware of those bearing gifts, is what this is about. I had a lovely evening with a fine set of folks at HAPS in Glenville 2 nights before Christmas, which was a great occasion in Charlotte. But anyway, this one gal at the table she's from Sandy Springs, she and her husband, down in Atlanta, north side. And she was telling me about how HUD has come in and they're trying to zone rural areas of counties. In this case, Fulton County has some rural areas, but zone them up in the rural type areas. Like for here, it'd be like Cashels or something like that, or maybe Boston, something. And then with bearing money in place to build low-cost housing, what have you. And under the auspices at first of for building them for like retiree packages, what have you. Well, the thing is if the given rural area doesn't have that count for like in this different types, but example, a retired suggested client, then they would pump in illegal immigrants into the property and fill them up, sort of under like the color and character of the hotels in New York, and to create voters. So there's a game going on, and to be aware of that. I don't think we have that at all. You're referring to is just fine, really in place. Um, uh, Johnny running for mayor, whatever, he told me about the complex over in Webster coming on, whatever. Sounds great. So in a way, it sort of sucks the wind out of what might be happening. But at the same time, like for our Cashel area, we have to be sensitive, let alone Glenville. Um, Glenville has another issue with a lot of Hispanic land buys, which will probably be taken from them in a year or so. But that's another story. So to be aware of HUD coming with bearing gifts and great federal money and stuff like that, it's a sucker punch. This time, that's what I'm talking about.
All right. Next up, we have Nelia Waldron. Waldron.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm Nelia Waldron, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you guys. The history of why I'm here over the past 6 months or so, I've had a variety of conversations with neighbors and community members about some concerns about the property that the county acquired several years ago on Keener Street next to the library. And most recently, probably 3 weeks ago, I was talking to Mayor Nestler, and he just really encouraged me to come share what I had observed with the board. And then, of course, last week I saw in the paper that it has again kind of risen to conversation again, which I was very pleased to hear. But I felt really compelled to share what I have seen. I live across the street on Ridgeway Street, and the county has done such a great job of maintaining. I'm very gesticulatory. Um, still over here. Anyway, maintaining the front landscaping of the property looks beautiful all the time, and the rock work is lovely. I mean, there are issues with the building, of course, but it has been well maintained, and it's kind of a curiosity conversation for folks. However, the backside of that property, do y'all know what I'm talking about? Have y'all all been on the property or just driven by it?
Been on it.
Okay. So there is a very large dense stand of bamboo in the back, which is hiding an abandoned RV deep inside it that is now being used for any number of things. There's a hammock that's on top that's been put up, but it's broken windows, broken doors. There are animals and people frequenting it. And none of these things have been a problem. No, none of the people who have frequented this place have been disruptive, have been difficult, have been any concern for us at all. Um, but the day before I talked to the Mayor Nestler, I was walking by, and there were two young girls, about 9 years old, running up and down that roof, running up and down the roof of the house because there are planks of wood that cover sort of a weird porch area underneath, but it connects the bank to the roof of that house. So these 10-year-old girls were just running because who would not want to do that? Super fun, great playground area. But I was very concerned, not knowing the stability of that structure, particularly those wood slats that are just flat and rotting and have been burned and everything else. So I know that you guys are in discussion about what to do with that property. Looked like there was at least one very lovely idea of what to do with that as far as doing something with a park, which sounds delightful because it is sort of a fascinating structure. But I would just implore that something in the meantime, because I don't know how long all that could take, but if something could be done about that stand of bamboo so that things are not hidden and happening inside it, I think it would do a lot to deter people from playing in there. And the risk to the county seems substantial because if you've got a kid out there by himself, herself, who falls in that roof and nobody knows. Anyway, it is just very disconcerting. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of what I have regularly witnessed. So
Thank you.
thank you for your time.
Okay. Moving on now to Miss Ash and our discussion regarding the license plate agency.
Good afternoon. So I'm coming back tonight to go back in a lot more detail, hopefully, over a conversation we had last month about potentially applying to be the contractor for the Silva license plate agency. Let me get going here. All right. So I'm going to go a little bit over a few things that we talked about last time, and then I'm going to really hit on what DMV is looking for, kind of the location we picked out, and all those sorts of things. So, the Silva tax office too, but plays a critical role in the community, and by offering a variety of motor vehicle registration and titling services. Do you want me to move this out of the way, Don, or does it bother you? All right, there we go. They will be ceasing operation December 15th due to the road expansion, and it has been operated by the Painter family since 1971. DMV initially solicited applications for a new operator on August 22nd of this year. After reviewing what they had received in the applications, they re-advertised on October 9th. The current application deadline is November 10th, and that's kind of what we talked about last time. And then just for reference again, there are currently 126 LPAs in North Carolina, and since 1961, they've allowed independent contractors, whether they be businesses or governments, to operate those. The first local government operated LPA dates back to 1995, and there are 23 local government operated LPAs in the state, and I've put a little map there. The yellow ones in reference would be local government operated facilities, and the blue in there is just where the Silva tag office is. So the local governments do stretch across the state. There are several throughout, and there's one here that is the Swain County operated one, and then Transylvania County as well. And then let's see here. So the LPA offers their services. They're kind of set up in different tiers. They go tier 1 to tier 5. The Silva office is currently a tier 2 facility with 67 to 69,000 transactions a year. Just basic calculations would be roughly 275 transactions a day, 34 an hour for just averaging it out based on the time they're open. Now they can do multiple transactions with obviously one individual if you had multiple vehicles you're renewing, but they do get a lot of foot traffic. The counties I spoke to said that was the busiest operations that they had in the county. Based on that, that tier will allow us up to 3 personnel should we want to continue with this and be approved. So if we were to proceed forward, that we would be asking for 3 new county positions, a manager and 2 clerks. And I have completed those job descriptions, proposed job descriptions, just so they're available, and they are attached as an agenda item if you wanted to look at them. But that's more of a future conversation. I just wanted to make sure we had everything kind of set up in this current process. And you can stop me at any point if you have any questions. So with the OPA office of Tier 2, they do have to be open to the public at least 8 hours consecutively each business day. So if we wanted to go through with this and approve, we would request that they adopt within business hours as a tax office, which is 8 to 5. They'd fluctuate their lunch hours so they're open, all of that entire period. They also are required to, of course, observe state holidays, which is the same holiday schedule that this board recently adopted. So that wouldn't be any issue there. So all of these requirements I'm going to go through for the most part are in the License Plate Agency Standard Operating Procedures, and it is attached as an agenda item. If you want some really exciting reading material, you can feel free to look that up later this afternoon when you get done. She didn't print it for you, but it is available in there. But I am going to go through pretty much in detail all of the requirements here. And keep in mind, some of these might seem kind of silly, like you can't have a personal residence, but that's because it's for businesses and individuals as well. So the facility would need to comply with all laws regarding Americans with Disabilities Act, would need to be cleaned regularly, regular maintenance, adequately heated and aired, smoke-free, ADA compliant restrooms, those sorts of things are all just basic general requirements. Under their location requirements, just be convenient to the public, be accessible and safe, and like I said, not a personal residence. Be owned, leased, or rented by the contractor. It needs to have an entrance where they can receive deliveries by a large vehicle, large truck. And they have a requirement of 1 disability parking spot for every 25 parking spaces. Their catch-all, which DMV must approve, review and approve. And then, of course, sideways, entryways, cleared and maintained. And most of these things are obviously always going to be a county building, but I'm just going to go through them just in case there's any private businesses out there that may be also interested in applying. There's still time. They also have to have an area where they can keep inventory in a safe, secure place, which the public does not have access to. Display signage that DMV wants them to have an area where they can see that. It's more just requirements that they have. You do have to have 1 or more security cameras that they could request prior, and I believe that is if they get a complaint, they want to see the interaction between the employee and the customer, just so they can get a feel for what happened. So we do have to have cameras, and we do have to maintain those for a minimum of 30 days. And then we also have to have a cost for group insurance for theft, damage of DMV's properties or state monies, and errors and omissions insurance. And that is distributed amongst the DMV offices or LPA offices based on their tier. Transylvania County's information said it was approximately $200 to $500 annually. All right, so we've done a lot of research and time, and basically half the county has helped us in this project. But we feel, and this is completely up to you, but that the Skyline Services Center would probably meet all of those requirements for them. I'm going to show some images and proposed floor plans. But it meets a lot of the check boxes, and I'll go through. And this building does not have a tilt in it. It's just I can't hold my phone straight doing panoramic. But this facility, and I'll show you both sides, is basically right when you come in to Skyline Services Center. So on the right-hand side is the doors where you could come in for the Board of Elections side. The left-hand side is where you come in for the driver's license office. And the space we're referring to is right behind those windows. So what we would want is all 4 of those windows would be converted into clerk-style windows. 2 would be tagged office all the time, with an exception for the manager office if it was needed in busy times. And then we would have our motor vehicle personal property appraiser over there as well, and they would have an area where they could assist customers if they had appeals or anything like that. So this is just looking at it from the interior standpoint. So what we would be discussing would be walling up basically both sides of this additional back lobby. And so this will be, that's just the side coming in from the driver's license side of the office, of course, and then that's more looking back towards, I think that actually might be the same picture I just showed, but, and just as a demonstration, ours will be a little bit more tight knit than this, but this would kind of be what we would want it to kind of look like. So you would have a desk there at the window, and then you would share this L shape here with your neighbor. So it'd be kind of like a T, two T's up at the front. And that's just a picture of the health department's service window, if you're curious about that. And if you visually have issues like I do, I have these floor plans gigantically blown up if anybody wants to see them. The first one I left kind of small just so you could get a feel. The driver's license office is up here in this, and then the Board of Elections would be down here. So very similar. You can see window, desk. They would share the L, and then another desk. There won't be anything here. That's just that existing where the TV is on the wall. And then we're probably only going to have one of these entrances, but this would be where we would have, either one of these sides would be where we would have our secured storage area for the tags. I think you have to have 4 months worth of tags. And then we would have a manager's office in the back as well, where they could do payment transactions and stuff. So it wouldn't be that you're counting all your money out there in front of everyone. So based on the requirements that we read, I do feel like this facility would hopefully meet all of the requirements. It is ADA compliant, of course. There's 72 parking spaces. 4 of those are handicapped. I think we did steps, and I think it's like 10 steps to that front door, so it's very convenient. I know the staff said that they do sometimes go out and assist people in the car as well, so that would be equally as convenient both ways. It would put both of the DMV services in the same location because they do get confused. People sometimes go the wrong stop. We could make that then a one-stop shop for all of your motor vehicle services, so you can handle everything at once. So if you need to do a proration, you don't have to come all the way over to our office to turn in a piece of paper. The only questions, is it DMV approved? I don't know. We would have to see if we wanted to move forward. And really, I think one of the main issues that we see is during election times is when the parking lot really fills up out there. So there would be, possibly up to 39 days if there's a runoff out of the 248 business days where you might see a lot more traffic than for early voting and voting this type of thing. Now, the driver's license office is busy too. But I think the election time is really when you amp up a lot of that parking. So there would be potential limits there. And unless they tell us otherwise, their policy says that if it's a new LPA, all of its personnel does have to do 3 weeks of consecutive training in Rocky Mount. So the estimates I put in, I included that. If they tell us something different, if anybody experience was to apply, then we'll listen to that. But we're going to go on the pretense based on their manual that currently all the personnel have to have the 3 weeks training in Rocky Mount before the facility can open. And this is our organizational structure and how it's set up. So all I wanted to show you was this would be a whole branch that we would add in underneath our personal property manager over here. Just if anybody was interested in that. Some of the additional items that they do provide some things, but it's mainly just the computer terminals, the printers, and the equipment for them to process their related things. It's not for any other purpose. So they'll give a paper that they print the registration cards on, the ink for that printer, but they're not giving out any additional items for, if they need a copier or anything like that. All of that would need to be provided by the county or the contractor. Of course, like the 2 canvas lock bags, if the bank didn't provide that. They do maintain, repair, and replace all of the computers that they provide. Unless we were to do break them on some side of that, but they do. Um, this is a pretty fair estimate, I think, based on conversations with Chad and trying to get IT to provide me information and a lot of other sources. I would say at a minimum, it would probably cost us around $45,000. And I would say to be rough, we would want to probably just say 50, just to give ourselves a little catch-all because the computer quote or the camera quote we were still kind of waiting on. We still don't know about telephones, the desk. I know when Darlene provided me the health department's just that thing. I think she said there were close to $4,000 a piece for those cubicles. So that how much they have to charge for the desk because we would have to get those made by someone because no one has desks that fit that exact size. So those sorts of things could add up, but that's a pretty close estimate to I think to where we would be. So I would anticipate roughly maybe $50,000 in cost just to be safe if we wanted to move forward. And I did put in a timeline. This is a pretty conservative timeline just because we're two government entities working together, and it takes us a lot longer as a government entity to move forward with processes as just a general business might. But the application is due on the 10th. DMV has a 7-day grace period, so they will not review any of those applications at least until the 17th. So with Thanksgiving, and a lot of these were holiday based. With Thanksgiving, I would say it could be late November, early December before we were even contacted you to do an interview. They would go through their vetting process and they would have to get approval. I don't know how long that would take. I would say it could be late December, early January before they would even inform us if we were approved. And then at that point, we would need to come back, of course, and get approval for the cost allocation and the new positions that we would need to advertise. And then Chad and his department can go ahead and start construction. They estimate it take them about a month. It should be a pretty quick process for them. We go ahead and advertise the positions. If you're not familiar, it takes about 6 weeks to hire somebody on a good timeline for the county. Sometimes it can take a lot longer than that. So I would say it could take till early March potentially to get them hired. If we go through the training, that's another 3 weeks. So really, I would say there's a potential this could be early April before the county could open it up. Now, it could be, we could cut a little bit of that timeline off here and there, but to be conservative, I would say all things considered, it could be April. So there's a potential of, a solid 3.5, 4 months potentially with no LPA services in the county.
So it was mentioned before. It was mentioned before about whether or not existing employees may or may not be interested. That could shave timelines off, but the reality is we have to move forward with the process of advertising a position for multiple weeks, accepting applications, going through that process. Obviously, it would be saving some training and time and things of that nature if people apply who have the experience. But I just throw that out because yes, I can help shave off some time, but that doesn't stop the process that everything has to go through to hire people. And so that's the reason I go back and look at this, because we're trying to make sure that the expectations to the public is achievable. And so what we don't want to do is overpromise and underdeliver. So that's the reason even though we might can shave time off, I recommend the board just use this timeline when discussing this with the public if you choose to.
Right.
Yeah, another applicant of a business may be able to move this a whole lot quicker than we can, but that's my conservative estimate. And I provided this before, but this is just the rates that they pay us back for compensation rates. They are by general statute, so that only changes with a general statute change. And the notary fees are set by DMV. So both of those are pretty much locked in rates. There's nothing that we could do about either of those as far as compensation. I did provide some of the other counties' financials that I found for revenues and expenses. So as you can see, some of them are a lot closer to breaking even. Some of them are not even coming close or barely making half. I don't know if they've just got, a lot of employees that have been there for an extended period of time. Personnel really weighs in a huge factor into this. I'm going to show an example of that. Um, so, so if you were to look at our current estimate with employees for expenses with no experience would be potential of the 17,000 loss based on just estimates that DMV has provided me. It could be slightly different when they provide the information at a later date, but I'm just going by the information I have. So that would be just for the expenses are just minimum base salaries for 3 positions and a minimal office supply amount. One thing I did want to mention is this. It's hard to explain it on a piece of paper, but currently in 2013, when the DMV became the collecting authority, the tag office currently is reimbursed by transaction fee for collecting property taxes. So if we were to take this over, then we would actually be reimbursing ourselves for that portion. So that's something we are missing out on right now. And then, of course, I put that it could increase if you have experience, and I want to just show potential options there because we do have a policy that does permit new hires to receive direct experience in certain situations. So this...
I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
One is going back to the schematics of the office area that could be used.
Mhm.
You have to scroll down.
Okay.
But the seating for customers waiting to get their tag, can you guesstimate how many seat spaces could be in that little waiting area?
We weren't going to put any seating there necessarily.
Okay,
There's not currently any seating in that office, but there could be chairs. There's a lot of room in there.
Yeah, we would have, that would become the main lobby, so we will be moving some of those chairs to the side. There'll also be room to put chairs on either side of the walls there as overflow.
In inclement weather, I've noticed that in the existing tag office, they have maybe 4 seating for 4.
Yeah.
And it's very close together. And I know I'm familiar with that
Yeah.
area. It would surely be nice to have a comfortable spaced seating as much as we could get in there for inclement weather and
Yeah.
special needs.
So Commissioner Jones, if you look at this right here, just a reminder of the space, the diagrams are for this space interior. So you remember there's a whole lobby that's in the front here that's not as quite as wide as that, but it's almost. Now, I think there's going to have to be decisions made about whether or not you line all of this up with chairs or not chairs. You may want to have a handful there for the people who need to sit. But as far as inclement weather goes, there's actually there. I don't know if you recall. Next time you go over there, just walk in there. If you recall before, I was looking at both spaces in my mind. I was thinking we're going to evaluate downstairs and evaluate this space, and the reality is they're not really comparable. There is a good amount of space in here that people can walk indoors and stand there in inclement weather. But I think right now we used to have, you see these chairs here? That was out there initially for DMV. That was when COVID was happening, when they basically would not open up their lobby. But what I'm being told now is now that they've opened up their lobby that's inside their space, these chairs are not being used as much anymore. And so we will have room out here to do that. I think we place the chairs as needed, I guess is my point. And I just want you to visually see how much lobby space is out here versus if you compare it to what's there now, it's not even remotely close.
I totally agree. I just think there should be some seating in there for customers like myself.
And so what we'll do, if you look over here, so what I think they're going to, yes, there will be seating out there, and I think what'll have to happen, we'll try to figure out, or they will try to figure out, but I think you'll just have to play it by ear, and you'll try to get people who are waiting in these lines to sit out here. I do believe there may end up being, a couple chairs out here. If you look, we left these offsets here that allows for some things to occur. This is the DMV office. And so there's also offset on this space. And I think between the, let me go back up here, the front lobby, let me use this one, the front lobby, and then that space that's going to be basically right here, there's going to be a good amount of room to have chairs. I just, I think they just need to figure out how many need to be out there. And, but I think there's going to be plenty of room for that.
Leave that, those numbers to the parties that may be. And the other comment I noticed, and you probably don't have the information right now, I didn't expect you to, but the Watauga County, their their loss is $157,000. Well, if somebody could contact them and kind of figure out what is the main expense, so we definitely won't go there.
I reached out to him and I didn't hear back from him, but I did compare the previous year's budget as well, and it was the same amount. So I thought maybe they just had to buy a bunch of computers or something, but it was the same amount. So it's a consistent amount. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
I do want to mention one other thing. I'm sorry, I'm
Oh, yeah.
going to take us back. When you look at that budget also, you see the signage here that currently if you go down to, obviously you walk down this hall to go to corporate extension. So all of this, just so you know, included in that budget, when they close that wall off here and we open up that space, then all signage for this whole area, not only just the cameras, it's going to have to be reevaluated when you start talking about flow and identifying services. And hopefully they can reuse this. They can just move it over and reuse it. But just letting you know, staff and that I brought up extension and soil and water to have these conversations to try to be inclusive and just there'll have to be signage potentially either redone or moved around for flow and identification and things of that nature.
Does it have to be a totally separate camera system? Because I know other people utilizing that building have camera systems. I don't know if they're all connected to the same one.
Per IT, there wasn't any that would capture both of those areas.
They could add additional cameras.
I think that's going to have to be a question for their IT. I think whether or not we can combine it with our system or have to keep it separated, I'm not sure what their requirements
That's
are
what I
going
was
to be.
wondering. 'Cause you can add
I believe you can keep it separate because the tag office now they're paying the provider to run that camera system for them.
Right,
I think
I know you can
yeah.
use it, but my question was, could you piggyback off of the one we already have to save some money?
Yeah.
Just buy cameras versus a whole system.
I think that's going to be once you get into the
That's probably a
details.
state
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that Justin and IT is looking into the cost of those cameras and sorts of things like that. But yeah, we would have to wait and see if they've got any specific. A lot of this is pending whatever specifications that they throw on us at a later date.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's probably up to the state. What they do.
Yeah. All right. So this, as I showed before, this is the same type calculations from before. These grades are based on our current grade structure for our collection staff, so they're already a current grade system that we're using. And I wanted to show if you just threw in a step 10, how quickly those numbers can change. Personnel is a huge factor in just about any conversation on expenses. And so that quickly changes that overall potential. Not saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying that's just throwing out the examples of what happens quickly. I don't want anybody to assume that we're only going to lose $17,000 potentially, and we start losing, 75 or something like that. So, but of course, it is a service. Most of the services we provide in the county they do not offset their expenses. So it's just one of those things that's a pretty common thing. Most departments don't. Some don't bring in any revenue, but that doesn't mean they're not just as important as the rest. Without just throwing out some scenarios, just so everyone is privy that you start adding in personnel in there, and that could really start drastically changing potential source of revenue that you could have.
So, and the quick question is, why can we compete with private? Because we're a large organization where through our recruitment strategies, we've got to offer benefit packages and things of that nature. Just insurance alone per employee is what, $14,000? $14,000 per employee, and just health insurance alone. That doesn't include the 11% retirement match and all those types of things that are not, the private world doesn't necessarily have to offer. And so we just don't have choices. We have to offer these because of the size of our organization and things of that nature. And that it just is what it is.
Is what, yeah.
Is the revenues, is that based off of just, is that just an estimate, or is that from previous years?
It is, the revenues there are an estimate of the regular transaction rate times the 68,000 transactions.
So what I'm thinking is, have we seen a decrease in the past several years out there? Have we seen an increase in transactions?
They won't provide you any income information at DMV. So this all just has to be estimates. I did ask Swain County, and I think that they had done maybe 1,000 transactions more, close to 1,000 transactions and more last year compared to the year before. So it doesn't seem like it's going down. It does seem like it's
I'm sure
staying
it'll
steady.
fluctuate, but if we've seen
Yeah.
that average drop, it'll be different. Thank you. I think this is a lot better idea than having it here, honestly, because
Yeah.
having to go through the metal detectors. I come up here the other day to go to the register of deeds, and the parking lot's sitting full. So I mean, you
Yeah.
have somebody that's elderly have to park way down on that second level. I feel like this is a way better idea. Like you said, one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Do we know how our base salary compares to the current salaries of the people working there? I mean, I know that's a tough question to ask those people, but
I didn't want to ask them that.
I don't want,
Yeah.
I don't want to ask. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm no Jay.
I think it's a little lower than some of the other adjacent counties, but it fits currently into the mold that we're in, and wouldn't want to bring in people making a whole lot more. And
I've known Jay any
yeah.
time, but I still wouldn't want to ask.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the way we have to approach this, I mean, we don't have, but this, as Tabitha, Miss Ash is saying, this fits within her. If you drastically change these, then when you compare it to her other pay employees and what they're paid, it's going to not fit within her system. So these recommendations, yeah.
Lowering it, I was
Yeah.
just thinking about, whether it's going to be a
Well, I mean, even if you increase it, what I'm trying to say is if you say, okay, these need to be 19 and that needs to be 24, what that does, then that doesn't work within her current system with her other employees. So these recommendations are made to work within her operations, not to be too high or too low. And so that's, she mentioned this, but the reality is for these salaries, you don't know how long it may take to recruit somebody in for these salaries.
Well, I know when I was in there renewing a tag the other day, and they both seemed interested in, coming over, but again, they have to go through the hiring process and all that, so it's just.
Yeah, we got a manual that very much outlines our our advertising process.
In that manual, does it address customer relations protocol? Or is that something
I
that
don't know
you
if our
forget
human
in that
resource,
training?
I think it mentions it, but I don't think it's necessarily
Well, I
meant
think
to be.
we need to deal with that.
Yeah.
In the job description.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a customer service operation. So the reality is when you go through your process and you go through your interview process and you work with human resources, that needs to be, I think what you're asking, that needs to be identified as a criteria that has to be upheld, because this is a customer service operation.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you're going, Mark, about.
Yes, sir.
And I think that once the job descriptions get finalized, if that's a concern of the board and staff and leadership, then we just make sure that it's identified in the job description and identified in the hiring process and identified as a requirement that these people have public relations skills and the ability to deal with the public.
Be interesting to know in that 3-week training, do they cover that type of interaction? Um, And one would think they would, but that would be important to working with the public and representing Jackson County.
Yeah, because I'm sure they go over obviously how to do all these transactions, but yeah, I'm not sure if they hit on,
There's a DMV assists the public with respect to NC DMV rules and regulations. So there may be a clause within the DMV's requirements to be courteous and kind and helpful. as
I mean, I
you
would
tell.
definitely say they take their interaction seriously if they wanted you to keep 30 days worth of camera footage. That way they can go back and get a feel for the interaction. I mean, I would think they think it's serious, yeah. And of course we do. We're accustomed to having to deal with customers all the time, so that's our main focus as well. So, yeah, this is just a copy of their advertisement, and then this is the application that is basically completed, minus dates and signatures if you are still interested in proceeding forward with that application.
Ability to deal tactfully and courteously with the public.
There you go. Yeah. And I do have, just for reference, I do have those job descriptions attached. If we need to add a little, beef that up more for customer service, I can do that. Most of our job descriptions in my office is very customer service oriented. So, but I can check that. And then I did have that SOP for DMV attached as well, if anybody wanted to look through that and go to sleep reading that tonight. So I guess they didn't vote last time, right? So if
No, I mean,
Yeah.
what is being requested of this board with the information given is for permission to be given to Ms. Ash to formally apply for operating this tag office. If you recall, just a reminder to the public and reminder for press, the Jackson County did not respond in the first month of advertisements. And remember, I presented to the board, the idea being is trying to let the private market come in and see if there's folks interested, the private market interested in actually applying for it. Apparently, I do believe there were some applicants, but they did not make the vetting process. So at this point, what's being presented to this board is that do you wish for us to proceed forward with this application process? Because I think at the end of the day, I believe what's going to happen is the citizens are going to want this service. So we would love for the private market to step in and continue to run the service, but the reality is if we don't apply, then all this does is that timeline that we presented to you, it just shifts it back another month to 2 months, because if they don't get applicants again that qualify, then they will have to re-advertise and they'll have to keep going through that process.
yeah,
Is there a motion to approve starting this process?
I'll make that motion to move forward with the license plate agency run by the county.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Letson,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling.
Yes.
thank you. Just another plug, if you're interested as a business, you can still apply.
I don't think, is Mr. Elders here tonight?
No, he apologizes. I'm standing in for Mr. Elders. He is at a contractors meeting doing a presentation. It started at 5 and he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it, so he asked me to stand in. What you do have in front of you is the request for approval fireworks display. The Chamber of Commerce and Jackson County Recreation Department scheduled a fireworks display for Friday evening, December 1st in downtown Silva. Display is scheduled for 7:30. As always, they need commissioner approval to proceed with this show. Just a reminder to the board and to the public, There's a whole series of rules and regulations that these private companies have to abide by, in which our code enforcement office ensures that they abide by in order for them to provide the show. Mr. Elders also wanted me to let everybody know, as long as there's a burn ban out there, then it will be up to Chief Beck in regards to whether or not this fireworks show will be allowed to take place. So it is requested for this board to approve fireworks show, but also understand at the end of the day, if this burn ban is still in effect, it makes sense. People who are in charge of firefighting need to make the call whether or not something like this should be allowed.
I should know this, but where is the site this fireworks will be shot off?
If it's the same place as normal, is it not up there? Do you know where the? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
You come down
There.
into town,
Walgreens.
where Kelso used to be, it's up on the hill.
It's at the very end of Inslee Street.
Yeah.
That's the Church of God.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve this fireworks request?
So moved, Chairman.
Second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Letson,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling.
Yes.
Okay, moving on now to appointments. On these applications, we've got some that their terms aren't ending until the 15th. Well, let's just start with Council on Aging because I believe they're ready.
Already expired.
So we have Mary Cool to replace Mr. Burnett, and Charlene Ward to a second term. Is there a motion to approve Mr. Burnett, or I'm sorry, Mrs. Kuhl and Mrs. Ward to the Council on Aging?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 None opposed? All right, and then for the library, Ms. Watkins' term expires on the 15th. And then for recreation
Vacant.
is vacant. Okay. So for the public library, if it's okay to table this until a little bit closer to the time of expiration, that way if anyone else wanted to apply, at least we would have that appointment, or at least their application. Is there a motion to table this one?
So moved, Chairman.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And none opposed.
Aye.
All right, and then for Parks and Rec, we have Rochelle Mao to sit in the vacant Cullowhee seat. They approved her at the local board, so is there a motion to approve Ms. Mao?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And a second?
I'll make a motion to approve Ms. Mal.
You can't. Tom, you're not present, so
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
in a second?
Okay, sorry.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Great. Is there any press tonight? Okay. We do need to go into closed session for real property and personnel and legal. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved, Chairman.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? No action was taken. Deborah's gonna send you the minutes. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll seek a motion for adjournment.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are adjourned.
And Angie is.